I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting, the Arizona correspondent for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. It's my pleasure to have Arizona native and cannabis entrepreneur Meaghie Gould with me today. Welcome, Maggie.
Hey Karen, thank you so much for having me.
Happy to have you. Tell us a little about yourself and your cannabis journey and how you got involved with the plant.
Absolutely. I started my cannabis brand, Meaghie Jane, a few years ago. I was working in uh, weddings and corporate events down in Tucson, and then COVID hit, and I needed to not work in events anymore and had to find a different job. And I was chatting with one of my friends that has been in the industry for a few years, and I was telling him, I really don't want to go back to weddings and corporate events. And he said, why don't you try cannabis events? And just then it was like, oh, that's not a bad idea. And I started to reach out to some of my event planner previous bosses and um, kind of bounce things off of them. And that was where kind of the idea started to get rolling. I've been a cannabis user and advocate for years as well. So it just kind of went hand in hand. But that was the very beginning with kind of how Meggie Jane started, and it has snowballed 3 years later to this, what it is now.
I've been to one of your events and it was fabulous. It was like being at a cocktail party, but with cannabis instead of alcohol, which was wonderful. The environment was very inviting, and there was an interesting mix of people in the industry and people not in the industry and people who just came to see what it was all about. Your brand, Meggie Jane, it focuses on breaking the stigma around cannabis through elevated experiences like the one I just described. So, how do you see those events changing the public perceptions of cannabis culture?
Yes, I really focus and highlight elevating the perception of cannabis consumption and providing a welcoming environment, not only for the canna connoisseur, but also the canna curious consumer. I feel that cannabis events now are really only tailored to those that are already familiar with cannabis consumption. And I feel that that needs to change in order for us to progress and grow as an industry. I have spoken to many people, and they have told me that, cannabis events here in Arizona are, not particularly inviting as they would want them to be. So I really focus on creating a space that is not as intimidating or overwhelming as some of other events that are offered. And yeah, I really just want to focus on educating the consumer and yeah, progressing the Arizona cannabis industry. Um, we also, at our mocktail hour, we have options of THC, CBD, one-to-one or not infused mocktails, as well as the food is optionally infused. So there are options for everyone, even if you are a consumer of THC, but you still want to come check out the cannabis space and, learn from some experts that we have there. We have some brands there usually to educate consumers on their products. And then the gift bag has a few goodies for the guests to take home, and they can, continue to do their own research, test out the product, as they take the experience home with them, so they can take it home and, have that one-on-one experience. And then maybe the next time they come, they want to have the THC mocktail as opposed to the CBD. So it's really just trying to offer something for everyone and not just one cannabis consumer.
Yeah, I know inclusivity is part of your mission. and specifically the Canna Curious. So what kind of feedback have you gotten about your events specifically from the Canna Curious?
Yes, I have gotten great feedback in that they do feel invited and welcomed to the cannabis scene. I was speaking with someone yesterday that was speaking to a guest at my last event, and she was saying that she had seen my event all over Instagram and was so excited to finally find an event that a cannabis event that was speaking to her. There's a demographic, the kind of curious that the industry I think tends to overlook. They really tend to focus on those that are already familiar. And, again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's just missed opportunity and there's just
Space for more than just the stoner culture
yeah,
that typically
exactly.
gets associated with cannabis use.
Exactly. We tend to kind of stay in, our cannabis consumption bubble. And I feel that we need to step out and kind of welcome those, again, that are less familiar with the plant. Because I think we can, especially working in the industry, can be so desensitized to the normalization because we're around it all the time. But other people that aren't in our industry, they are a lot less informed, and I feel a responsibility to welcome and inform those that are less familiar.
Yeah, and what are the age ranges of some of the Canna Curious that have attended some of your events? Because I know one of the biggest or the fastest growing segments are women my age and then senior citizens, which I am not yet.
No, you definitely are not. So the demographic that is at the event, it really is a wide range. Like we do have the, you know, 21, of course, 21 to 35, younger, downtown crowd, people that, tend to follow me on Instagram are within that range. And, but there is a crowd as well as the older, um, you know, 40 to 50, 40 to 60 range. Because again, they have grown up with this plant as well in a more restrictive and prohibition era. But the older crowd that is growing uses consumption, or the older crowd that does consume, they want to experience cannabis in this new, legal age as well, in a more demonized and prohibition era, but they want to be out consuming and enjoying this sort of legal era as well. I think people really want to feel good when they're consuming cannabis. Again, it was demonized for decades, and people would, it would be made out to people that, they would go crazy if they would be smoking cannabis. And people really want to feel like they are, benefiting themselves. And that to me is why the mocktail hour is, beneficial, because it is more geared towards health and wellness with the mocktails. And, again, elevating your experience with cannabis. It's it's not the 70s anymore with the going and hiding and smoking a joint.
So I'm gonna try back around the back of a building or something.
Right, and feeling, like you're gonna be arrested for smoking a joint. Like people want to experience and connect with the plant in new and different ways, and it's who I'm really trying to cater to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've attended one of your events and I found it just very classy. I found it very inviting, very welcoming, and I too found a wide range of ages of people there, and obviously people in the industry, and then people who had never even tried cannabis before. And so I thought it was a very interesting mix of people, and certainly exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Um, Now, so if you have the infused food options and the infused cocktail options, there's no actual smoking at the event. And just curious if you can tell me a little more about that. Is that because you choose not to have kind of the puff puff pass environment, or it's hard to find places to be able to smoke in, or what's behind the decision not to have actual smoking at your events?
Right. Well, I I wouldn't the venue just doesn't allow smoking in the in the building.
Sure.
So that's one thing. But we are like the venue is in the middle of downtown. Um, so with the gift bags, we tend to have product in there. And from I haven't experienced this because I'm usually working and not a guest, but from what I've spoken with, from what I've heard from guests is they, take the product and kind of go smoke around downtown. And, they just, it's kind of more designated for just a different time. I've heard feedback that people enjoy not having the smoke in the air, and they're still consuming, but it's, yeah, again, more elevated. And again, people are more than welcome to go outside and kind of smoke around downtown. It's just, yeah, I'm trying to kind of grow. And I could definitely see some potential of having a brand outside at some point and having that option. But it's still, yeah, in the growing phases.
Yeah, I mean, yours going into your event was like walking into a nice cocktail lounge and not a smoky dive bar. So,
Right.
those are two different experiences. And while I like both, since you
Yeah.
are trying to provide an elevated experience and you can't smoke indoors at the venue, I could see where it's not
Right.
necessarily an option. But since we are in Arizona and it's beautiful 8.5, 9 months of the year outside,
Right.
maybe an option.
Right. Yeah. There's still that option. We still provide the goods for people to have that option at some point. And yeah, I think, if people do go outside and then they come back in for that mocktail, they can still have that, um, you know, the smoky buzz, but
Yeah.
inside it's not allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. As a passionate advocate, as a passionate advocate for cannabis reform, what challenges have you faced in redefining cannabis culture through your brand?
Yes, I would say the sort of novice of what exactly is a mocktail hour and what does it include. And um going against the grain is not ever an easy thing. Yes. Being new in an industry that so heavily kind of focused on one kind of event or idea. It's not easy to go to, um, brands or big dispensaries when it's not an established event yet. It's new. So people, are a little more hesitant to, kind of grasp at it. So I think, again, continuing to do the event consistently. And, I've received feedback on how positive and how valuable it is to guests. And I think as I continue to build and have that rapport with guests, it will become a thing. Like hopefully, not too many, but there are infused dinner parties that are here. And I'm hoping that eventually more elevated infused events start to come around because it's just beneficial for the consumer and the industry as a whole. So yeah, just the novice of classy cannabis brand, um, woman owned is just always a little bit can be it's going against the grain is always going to be difficult.
For sure. And there's still a lot of stigma associated with cannabis use. Um, yeah, I was writing a speech for one of my clients the other day, and the banks and lenders cite brand stigma. I think the stat was 59% of banks cite brand stigma for even loaning into the hemp industry, hemp and CBD industry. And then I think it was like 68% of consumers still conflate CBD with THC. So your events are a way to kind of combat that stigma and also just provide the different environment. I think you've carved out a very important niche and kind of a missing piece, because consumption lounges haven't really taken off in any state. There's a couple states that have them, but the restrictions are so tight. There's no alcohol, no this, no that, all these limits and stuff. And many states haven't even adopted the model. So you're providing, I think, a very valuable opportunity and experience for the canna curious and the consumer alike.
Thank you. So I really appreciate that feedback because it's exactly what I'm trying to do. And it's, again, not easy. But I really feel that they are out there, my market. And I saw a lot of new faces at my last event, which was really great. And I hope to continue just to grow a community where it is welcoming, not only for someone that is very familiar with cannabis and enjoys consuming every day, but also for, the mom that has her gummy every night, or the grandma that likes to bake brownies, or, whomever. But just for everyone to kind of come together and consume.
So what is the future of Meaghie Jane? Obviously more events. Are you planning to expand outside of Phoenix or even outside of Arizona?
Yes. I really would, or I'm planning on having these events, across the country. I'm just, obviously building my little Arizona HQ right now. I would like to have, mocktail hours across the country, and eventually have my own, consumption lounge, and products as well. Some cannabis products that I'm dreaming up right now. So
excellent. Well, that's exciting. So I know, Maggie, that you volunteer for the Arizona chapter of Normal. What got you interested in volunteering with them, and what do you do with them, and why?
Yes, I am on the board of directors of Arizona Normal. I'm the board secretary, and I have been an advocate since I started Meggie Jane 3 years ago. And what got me so moved to be a part of the chapter was learning the history of cannabis and the history of the plant, and how it was demonized by the government in the starting in the 30s with the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and really reading about the cases of really sick people that were sent to prison and died in prison because they were using cannabis to help their ailments. And I just like this, reading that really opened my eyes to the depth of, this inherently political plant, and, kind of attached more moral cause to my brand. So it's really important for me to advocate for the freedom of this plant and it being, descheduled and not federally illegal. I'm very passionate about federal and state reform. And it's really important for me for people to know what the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws is and, that it exists. And, I will reach out with legislators and they're like, oh, like Arizona Normal is still around. And to me, it's really important that, our industry and our legislators down at the Capitol know that there is a group here protecting the plant for its consumers and it's not going away. And that's why it was started. It was started by a gentleman named Keith Stroop. And right when cannabis was first made legal in California. So Normal popped up because they knew that the government would try and, harness its value and try and take it away from the consumer. So just learning the history of the plant and knowing that there's a group out there to protect it was what got me so involved.
Excellent. Thank you. So Meaghan, where can people reach you and when is your next event and, what's your website, your Instagram handle, that kind of stuff? How can people learn more about Meaghie Jane and get on the mailing list for your events or find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yes, of course. I have my Instagram, which is at Meaghie Jane, and that is where I post anything that I'm doing in the industry and my events. And I have a website, MeaghieJane.com. That is where the tickets are sold to the event. It's in the link in my bio. I also have TikTok. Then I also have a YouTube as well. It's all at Meaghie Jane. And you can sign up for my mail list on my website. And for my next event, it is going to be May 29th, Thursday. I am doing them every other month, the last Thursday of the month. So yes, the last one is March, and I'll be doing the next one Thursday, May 29th.
Well, Maggie, it's been a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much for spending the time with me, and I look forward to attending another one of your events in the future.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I cannot wait to see you at our next mocktail hour.
Thanks, Maggie.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Green Finger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
Debbie Fazy with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Elena Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast, PCM TV's weekly roundup of industry news from California to New York. I'm Elena Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCM TV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.